Hi everyone, my name is Jen Miriam Altman and I'm the East Bay Program Manager for the Jewish Baby Network. And today we are going to talk about how to have a fun family Seder at home. And this here is
Ella.
Ella's my daughter, and we've been doing Seders together since she was a baby. She was actually born a week before Passover. Anyhow, so here we go. I know for some of you it's a little bit daunting to try to do a Seder all by yourself at home. For many of you, it'll be your first time actually doing your own Seder. So we're going to give some helpful tips on how to make a Seder that's really fun, especially for little kids. Okay, you ready? Here we go. So the first part is preparing for Passover.
I know that you clean on Passover, before Passover, but why do you clean before Passover?
Well, that's a really good question. So one of the reasons we clean is because we're trying to get rid of all the chametz that's in our house. Now, chametz is bread, crackers,
Donuts,
cereal,
bagels, cake,
yeah,
flour.
And if you have kids, that stuff is probably spread all around your house. Now, chametz isn't just bread. It also symbolizes something deeper. It symbolizes that part of our ego that's all puffed up and gets in our way sometimes of being our highest self. So we're going to clean our house to get rid of all the chametz. And then there's a really fun activity you can do with kids. And it's the searching for the chametz. So after you've cleaned everything really well, you take little bits of bread and you wrap it in tinfoil so it doesn't mess up your house.
And hide it around the house and turn off all the lights and get a candle or maybe a fake candle.
Yeah, maybe a flashlight might be safer. But you can use a candle or flashlight and a spoon and a feather.
Yeah, and you walk around the house and you find the chametz.
Well, one important thing is if you're the one who's hiding it, remember where you put it because sometimes you could lose it.
Yeah, and it's not good to keep chametz in the house on Passover.
That's right. So that's one really fun activity your kids will love. The nighttime hide and seek. Okay, so the next morning before the Seder, one really fun activity is actually burning the chametz. Some people don't know about this custom, but it's really fun. You can go into your backyard, and if you have a fire, a safe fire pit, you can make a tiny fire. Or if you have a fireplace at your house, you can also use that. But make sure you always do that in a safe way. And you take the last little bits of chametz, there's a blessing you can say, and you burn it up. And while you're burning it up, you can think of some of the things you might be wanting to let go of. Some of those parts of yourself, the chametz parts that you might want to transform in the fire.
Like tashlich?
It's kind of like tashlich, yeah. But instead of throwing the bread into the water, you're throwing it into the fire. There's something about the essence of fire that transforms things really fast. So another way to engage kids is to have them make things for the Seder. So I'm going to show you some examples. So my youngest daughter in preschool made this gorgeous plate. Can you see it? This is just a glass plate. And they took a picture of the Seder plate and Mod Podged it onto the back. This is not dishwasher safe. You have to hand wash this, but it's quite beautiful. All right. So another thing that you can make is a matzah cover. You could take a handkerchief or any piece of fabric, and you can take fabric paints or even Sharpies and write on it to make a matzah cover. What else? What other ideas?
Well, maybe you could make puppets and act out the Passover story.
Ooh, that's a good idea. You could make stick puppets. You could make all the plagues. There's all kinds of things, and that could be a really fun thing at the table to.
It's a frog.
Oh, this is a frog that I bought from the store. I didn't make this one, but you could also use the stuffed animals to help act out the story. All right, and that leads us to the actual Seder itself. Now, let's just start with the very basics. Why is this night different from all other nights? Well, it's the food. The matzah, right?
And also, I know another answer
What?
to the question.
What?
Because we're asking questions.
Oh, yeah. We're asking questions.
On any other night, you don't ask questions about your dinner.
Yeah.
You just eat your dinner.
That's right. And you know what? The dinner tells a story. So you want to make sure you have the matzah, the parsley to dip, and the maror. Those are the three main symbols that you want to have. And there's a bunch of others too, but those are the three most important ones.
I have something that kids can do at home for the eggs.
Oh.
You can dye the eggs with dyes, and then you can have colorful eggs for Passover.
Ooh, that's a fun idea. That makes the Passover Seder really colorful. Because we also have an egg on the Seder plate. Okay, so let's see. What else? All right. Another fun thing to do at the Passover Seder is telling the story. This really engages the kids. Now, let's see. The food tells the story of Passover. And that's a really exciting thing. And kids love food. Now, if you just have a little tiny baby at home, they're going to smell the food and enjoy the food and hear the singing and have a great time. So if you just are there with a little baby, no pressure. Just enjoy your food and sing. And that's really all you need to worry about. But there's so many fun things that you can do with the food that tells a story. One of the first things is the karpas, the parsley, the green vegetable. And we have so much fun with this one. So some of the parsley we take and we dip in the salt water. But what do we do with some of the other parsley?
We whip our friends.
This is a really fun custom in Jews in some parts of the world where you take it and you pretend you're slave masters.
Yeah, and you whip the person next to you.
Yeah, but
super fun.
But first you have to ask for consent. You have to ask if it's okay because maybe not everyone wants that to happen to them. But it's really fun. So we do that. And also another thing during the karpas section is that you can also add in other vegetables. So we like to add artichokes and cucumbers, and we also like to dip our egg in the salt water. And that helps for the hungry tummy, so we're not so anxious about the food coming, because we want to have our full attention for the telling of the story, the magid. Another fun thing that you can do with your kids is make a poster of the order of the Seder, and that helps to figure out where you are in the Seder, because sometimes it's hard to follow through on the Haggadah when you're trying to deal with little kids, toddlers and 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. So what I like to do is to make a poster, and you can sing this song that goes with the order of the Seder, and there's lots of different melodies, but the song goes like this: Kadesh urchatz, karpas yachatz, Magid rachsa, motzi matzah, maror korech, shulchan orech, tzafun barech, halel nirtzah. And when you get to the stage that you're in, you can yell it, Kadesh, or Magid. And it's a really fun way for kids to join in.
And a poster is a super fun art project, and you can decorate it any way you want.
That's right, and it's a fun way to learn the order of the Seder. All right, and now comes my favorite part, acting out the story. Now, in a traditional Haggadah, you don't hear the whole story of Moses and how Moses went down to Egypt, because they're assuming that you already know it. So the traditional Haggadah is mostly commentary on that story. So it can be kind of confusing to follow for little kids. So I suggest you start with the basic story and act that out. And if you need help trying to figure out a kid-friendly version of the basic story, you can watch the puppet show video that I did. It's a very, very simple telling. And what we like to do in my family is we like to dress up as the characters.
And make it interactive.
That's right. So we don't just sit at the table for the whole story. We actually get up and go into the living room or wherever and act it out.
Yeah, and it's not really a play, and the people who don't want to be in it don't just sit down for the whole play. There's parts where everybody can cross the Red Sea and work like slaves, and it's super fun.
That's right. That's right. So everyone gets involved, and it's super fun. And you can figure out for yourself what works. You can dress up as the characters. You can dress up your stuffed animals as the characters. You could use the puppets that you made beforehand to act it out, or whatever works for you. So I also really like to make sure that I add in the other characters, the female characters. So instead of just talking about Moses, I also like to talk about the role of Miriam and Batya, and bring in all the characters. All right, so let's talk about some of the fun things that we do during the telling of the story. One thing that we do sometimes is when it's time to leave Egypt, we get up off the table and we sing Exodus, and we sometimes will go on a big journey down outside and around. That's one fun thing to do.
And also when we cross the Red Sea, everybody crosses the Red Sea, and we play special music to cross the Red Sea.
Oh yeah, and you know what else? We have what we did. We make we have this big piece of fabric, and we put a fabric on each side, and everyone gets to go through it. And so you can use a sheet. You don't have to have a fancy fabric like this. You can use a sheet, whatever you like. I know we're not telling this in order, but we're just giving you some ideas, and I'd love to hear what some of your ideas are. The other thing is when it's time to leave Egypt, we got to decide what we want to take, and you can pack really quick, get your kids to grab their stuffies or whatever they think they'd like to bring, and that can be a fun thing to do. Another thing is whoever's playing the Pharaoh can pretend to give orders to everyone. You can bring your blocks out and you say, okay, build my pyramids.
Oh, and you could use magnetiles and say, build me a house.
That's right. Build the pyramids, build this, build that. And no, you don't get to rest. You don't, like that kind of. So that you can really feel the joy when you cross the sea into freedom. And I always like to sing some kind of song when we get to the other side and honor Miriam, who was prepared for their escape into freedom, and she brought instruments along with her. So this is a good time, if you have any instruments in your house, to bring them out and play. And if you don't have instruments, you can make some, get some pots and pans, and a fun song to sing when you cross the Red Sea. You could sing Dayenu or Avadim Hayinu, or any song that you want. And that's a really fun celebratory moment. So everyone really gets to feel the celebration of going into freedom.
Make the whole play fun. And you don't want to have a boring play, because it'll be a waste of time in your Seder.
That's right. And if you want to study up on the story beforehand, like I said, you can check my link with the puppet show about the Passover story. You could actually just binge watch that a lot before your Passover Seder, and you'll know the story. Another thing you can use is props. And props are really fun, and kids love to prepare props. So let's show some of our props. We've got Moses in the basket, and we like to float Moses down the river.
And we have a fair hat.
A burning bush is pretty easy to make. This is just a house plant with scarves.
Maybe the plagues. We have a frog.
We have a frog puppet. You can make plague puppets.
The water for
right.
the Red Sea.
And we have I have a lot of puppets because I'm a puppeteer, but you can just make them up, or you can dress up. And it's also really fun if you have a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, they're going to really enjoy saying, no, 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 I will not let them go. That's a really fun line. Okay, well, that's a little bit for the Magid. I know I was all over the place talking about it, but you can choose your own ideas, and if you come up with a really fun idea, please let us know about it, because we would love some new ideas.
I have another idea.
Oh, you do? Let's hear.
You could go camping in your backyard to remind us of how our ancestors traveled across the desert.
Ooh, that's a fun idea. That's a fun activity to do in between Passover and Shavuot.
Yeah.
We can talk more about that later. Okay, let's see. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the food. So after you tell the story, it's time to move on to the maror, the bitter herbs. Now, a lot of kids don't like to eat that horseradish, but you can also use bitter romaine lettuce. And then my most favorite part, the haroset, that yummy sweet haroset.
I love haroset.
Yeah, I like to make different kinds. So I like to make some with apples and nuts, but I also like to make some with dates. So Jews all around the world make haroset in different ways, and that might be something you can look up and research about and learn a little bit about Jews and other cultures. Okay, and then after dinner is the most fun part for kids, the afikomen. Well, yeah.
Part.
Well, one thing I've learned, if you have more than one child, the finding of the afikomen can be very stressful for the child who doesn't find it. So we've come up with a tradition in our house where whoever finds the afikomen first hides it for the rest of the kids. That way, after we're done searching for the afikomen, every kid has had a chance to find it. And sometimes we have little prizes, or we give money, or the kids can, if they're older, they can commit to a mitzvah project that they'll do after the Seder.
And also, if you want to make your afikomen fun, you can put chocolate on it or something.
Ooh, have chocolate on the table for afterwards.
Yeah, candies and stuff.
Yeah, that is a fun way. You know, after you find the afikomen, you can have waiting for you at the table some dessert, some chocolate-covered matzah. That's a sure way to make your Seder a hit. Another way to spice up your Seder is to tell personal stories. Maybe your ancestors traveled from another country during a difficult time and came to freedom in the United States. Or maybe you had maybe there's a story about how you came out of a narrow place, so something difficult, and you got through it. I know a lot of us are in a little bit of a narrow place, kind of stuck in our house right now. So telling personal stories is a good way to build resilience and to learn how to get through hard times. So I hope that you learned a little bit from how to have a fun Seder, and I hope that you'll have an awesome Seder. We're really excited, and I'd love to hear about how it went.
Thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye-bye. Tali, will you tell us what your favorite part of the Passover Seder is?
Somebody hides the matzah and people find it.
You like that part? What do you like about it?
Because it's fun for people to find the matzah.
Oh, good.